So before this video begins, you guys, I just want to say a couple things really quickly. The first of which, this video is more or less just my thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield, which means that you can actually just, move on to another tab and like do your homework or whatever other things you have going on for the day and just listen to my sweet, not so sweet voice for however long this video is. And the second thing is, you guys, please be respectful of this. It's just that this video is specifically, wholly and solely my own opinion. It is not a reflection of the quality of content or release information from GameFreak or Nintendo. This is specifically just my own thoughts and opinions on Pokemon Sword and Shield. This isn't like me trying to defend or promote or attack Pokemon Sword and Shield. And having said that, you guys, I have come to the conclusion that I think that Pokemon Sword and Shield might actually be a really decent game. Again, this is specifically my own opinion. You guys don't have to agree to it. You are completely and totally entitled to your own opinions, whether you would agree or disagree with that. But yeah, I just think that Pokemon Sword and Shield is just going to be a decent game because I just, for a couple of reasons actually. One thing is this whole bring back the national dex, controversy, if you want to call it that. For me, it hasn't been a huge deal, and I have a video about me and my thoughts on the hashtag bring back the national dex. And I think it should be switched to hashtag Pokemon deserves better, if anything else, because Pokemon kind of does deserve better. I won't deny that. I won't deny that, yes, the graphical quality of the Sword and Shield releases has been very lazy for me. It has felt very lazy. It felt very rushed. However, regarding this, my thoughts on this are, it's a demo, you guys. It can be rushed. That's what the demo's for, is to give you guys an incomplete view of the game. Now, if the graphical issues / laziness or just unrefined, if the gameplay, graphically speaking, of Pokemon Sword and Shield is not refined by November, by the release date, then yes, I will have problems with that. Of course I will, because you have all this time to work on the game. I expect you to get it right, and I think fairly so. Like, Game Freak is a company that is known for producing very, very good quality games, as we've seen like with the entire Pokemon mainline series games. But having said that, the graphical issues / laziness of the Nintendo Direct and E3 reveals doesn't really bother me too much, because it's a demo, it's a reveal. It's, if anything, you're kind of supposed to, or at least allowed to, have that kind of breathing room, because the game's not finished. I mean, you wouldn't be revealing the game if it was finished, right? That's what a reveal is just to give you a first glimpse of what the game has in store. But that does not reveal to you everything that the game has, all like that. It reveals to you the things that will come, and not the things that have all, like, just basically what I'm trying to say is that the game is not supposed to be finished during this time. The game is not supposed to be polished because it's a reveal. It's just to give a sample size to the fans, such that they can give accurate feedback that would actually be productive towards pushing the games into a better direction that the fans would actually like. The next thing I kind of want to address is, the Pokemon models, and I do believe it was Game Freak that just about 6 days ago from the time of this recording released an article regarding this. And basically what they said was, when they were switching from the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch, the frame rates are completely off, and this means that the spacing between animations is no longer the same. Given that on the handheld mode it goes up to 30 frames now, and on the monitor mode is 60 frames per second, which means that if you were to play on the monitor and you were using the old 3DS models and animations, what this means is basically the rest of the screen is going to be nice and fluid at 60 frames per second, but the Pokemon themselves are going to be moving at 30, which when you compare the two is actually very clunky and very weird, because the 60 frames per second is very smooth, but 30 frames per second, while still smooth, you can see there are some kind of corners that couldn't make it because you just don't have enough frames for the animation. And this next thing is the quality was different, which means that because now they're upscaling the resolution, or they're scaling up the model's resolution, the resolution that is being used for the models on the Switch. And when they were doing this, when they went to transfer the models, they didn't transfer over correctly for whatever reason. The article doesn't really kind of say why, but this failure to transfer all the models forced them to rebuild each model from scratch. And keeping in mind that GameFreak only has 143 employees, and half of which are only working on Pokemon, which in my opinion is a very stupid move. I very much disagree with it. But at this point that damage has been done, I think that this response is about as good as it's going to get for GameFreak. It forced them to kind of have to make a decision where, because they have to now rebuild 800 models from the ground up, they had to decide, because they can't transfer all over the models, there had to come a point where they had to decide between building all the models from the ground up or straight up cutting some out. And in the short term, I think cutting some out is a smarter move, because it allows you to put decent quality models and textures into with regards to the Pokemon into the game, and then that gives you time to finish all the other models that you have not finished yet. On top of that, Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing force GameFreak to produce extra models for each and every single Pokemon, and you can't just take the model and increase its size. It doesn't work that way, because the resolution is now being stretched now. It's not going to look nearly as clean. Kind of like how when you have a picture on a camera, you zoom in all the way, and the more you zoom in, the uglier it gets. That is not the same as actually rebuilding a completely different model for Dynamaxing Pokemon, which this is kind of the same thing as, taking a new picture up close versus just zooming in on an old picture, where the more you zoom in, the worse the resolution gets. And all this is backed up for me by the fact that even Sun and Moon, just making the models for those games and bringing them all over, was hardly manageable for the team. I don't know how or why this is the case, because again, you already had the models. This is a case where you can reuse the models because it's the same system in everything. But it's I guess for me, this is understandable at the very least why they have to rebuild the models and why they can't actually include every Pokemon in the game, in the franchise, into the Sword and Shield games anymore, because there was an error in transferring the files, and that happens even to the best of the biggest and brightest companies when it comes to developing games. That's something that happens it can happen to anyone, which for me is forgivable. And as well as now that they have to rebuild the animations and the models, they can incorporate those models into the wild areas, which for me is, I guess, a small win. It's not a big win. It's a very small one, but for me, I'm not okay with this. Don't get me wrong, you guys. I am not okay with this at all. But I can understand why the Game Freak made the moves that they did. It's not the best moves, mind you, but it's understandable now. It's just easier for me to digest now, knowing why they had issues reusing models. It kind of helps give me peace, I guess, in that. But another thing too I really want to address is kind of transitioning from that is no national decks. And for me, I already have a video on this, but very briefly I will summarize it. And basically my points are, even if my favorite Pokemon aren't in the game from past generations, doesn't really matter all that much to me, because when I'm playing a new generation, I generally will stick to the new Pokemon anyways. I don't really cycle through old Pokemon that easily, unless it's like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where you do cycle through the old Pokemon. There was no new Pokemon introduced in those games. In which case, yes, you go back and you play with the other Pokemon that you're used to. But when I was playing Sun and Moon, I hardly touched any of the previous generation's Pokemon, like, at all. And kind of, I guess, another point is transferring Pokemon from previous games to this one is no longer doable. For me, whenever I transfer my old Pokemon to newer games, I never use them. When I transfer them over, it's literally just they sit in one PC box in a game, or I use them in a game as I play through the game. I beat the game, they sit in a PC box, or they sit in my party, and then when I transfer them over, they only just sit in my PC box again and don't even get used anyways. So when I transfer Pokemon, if I were to transfer my favorite Pokemon or Pokemon that I'm attached to, or my favorite shinies or whatever it is, it's usually just they kind of sit in the next box. They aren't doing anything. They're just taking up space in a game. And for me, that's not really a big deal not being able to do that, because it's transferring Pokemon for me has been pointless anyways. So yeah, I can't be disappointed by the no national decks anymore. It's just not something I actually would actually do or use during my gameplay or my playthroughs of Pokemon games. So not transferring over Pokemon / not every Pokemon being in the game is totally fine with me, because I don't have any reason to play or use Pokemon from other games for me personally. But yeah, having said that, you guys, thank you guys so much for just listening to me in this video. I do hope that this doesn't offend any of you guys, and if it does, please be respectful in the comment section. I don't want anyone being harassed over a game. It's just not worth it. Like, I've seen some pretty scary stuff over the internet, and it's just not good. Having said that, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and leave your feedback on the video in the description below. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Peace.